Hey everybody, ronarray here, and in Dawn of the Hunt I did several different Lich builds, from chaos to minions. But what if you don't enjoy minions or damage over time? What if you just want to blast through mobs? Then this bone build is for you. This build can reach up to 100% of critical chance, making every cast a crit for satisfying enemy explosions. It has a great CC potential too, because of the pin stacks that will protect you from overwhelming monsters due to decent AoE that is doing instant damage. Clear feels faster than with some other setups, and it also doing a pretty good against bosses, defeating tier 4 pinnacles if it is required, even if you might need to dodge a little. All of that combined with survivability from Lich can make your gameplay very smooth, comfortable and safe, while staying practically one button and being heavily different from the usual Lich setups too. So in this video, I'm going to provide a detailed guide together with all in-depth information you might need to build it yourself. Check the timestamps as usual and let's go. So first off, let's focus on our skills. As the name suggests, this Lich build will be utilizing bone skills, such as Bonestorm and Bone Cage. Bonestorm will be used just for bossing, while Bone Cage will be your map clearing spell. With a good setup, it covers a very big part of the screen and it will be very comfortable to play that. So currently for Bonestorm, we are going to just focus on killing bosses, so most of the supports here are boss oriented. And for Bone Cage, we are going to get as high AoE as possible, so you're going to constantly clear monsters and hit as many monsters as possible at the same time. For the Bonestorm, we are going to use considered casting, because even with less cast speed, 35% of more damage is pretty much enough to justify it. We are also going to use heft, because our skill is doing physical damage and maximum physical damage is also a very good bonus for us. We are going to use arcane tempo, because cast speed is going to make sure that we are charging our Bonestorm faster. We are also going to use extraction, because extraction gives us 35% of damage as extra chaos damage. And surprisingly, it provides a pretty decent damage bonus for a build like this. We're also getting support skill sacrifice 10% of life on use, but since we are playing Lich, our life cannot be changed, that way extraction is just providing free damage bonus. And the last support for Bonestorm is currently Execute. Execute is going to help us finish off bosses, because 50% more damage with hits against enemies that are on low life is a very huge damage bonus. Low life is currently at 35% or under and is going to help us against literally everything, including pinnacles, because for the most bosses, their strongest and most versatile form is usually the form where the life is pretty low, so I recommend to use Execute because of this. For Bone Cage, we're just going to use Astral Projection to make sure that we can use our Bone Cage anywhere on the screen. We can also use a Spell Cascade to rise our AoE as high as possible, together with Arcane Surge, because it's going to help us with our mana regeneration, and mana regeneration for the build is pretty complicated, I'm going to explain it a little later. And Magnified Effect, which will give us even more AoE. The last support there is just Physical Mastery, because we are going to receive a pretty decent bonus from it. So with the current setup, at the Bonestorm I have 98% of critical hit chance, which is just very good. I also have about 532 critical damage bonus, so your critical hit chance should be as close to 100 as possible. I would say that around 97 and 96% there are diminishing returns for the last few percentage, so you can stop at this. Try to raise your critical damage as well. It's working both for Bonestorm and for the Bone Cage, because for the Bone Cage we have the similar amount of critical hit chance and critical damage bonus. Bone Cage, when cast, also going to pin enemies that are touching the spikes, and it's going to feel pretty good, because when enemies are pinned they can't run to you and hit you with melee attacks. It's going to help you against so many monsters that could overwhelm you. That way Bone Cage could be also used as a protective skill. For the clear, we're also going to use Cast on Critical, together with Detonate That, Impetus, Super Critical and Deliberation. That setup with Detonate That is just going to help you to clear even better. So Bone Cage is going to kill at least some enemies, and after that they're going to get detonated. Cast on Critical currently is a very strong skill for our setup, because it's going to help us with clearing without a lot of issues. And for the bosses, we often are cast on Critical and we are using Blasphemy, together with Enfeeble, Ritualistic Curse, Heightened Curse, and Clarity. That setup helps a lot, because it's going to make sure that bosses will hit you for less damage, and even if you will make a mistake and boss is going to hit you with some particular big attack, you're going to just survive it fine. So use Cast on Critical for clear and Blasphemy for the bosses. We also have Blink in the second set, and the way how we are using Blink is a little tricky. First off, we will need ability Raise Shield, and we are going to use a shield in our second setup. So if the main setup has like a wand and focus, the second setup should have a scepter and shield. That way you will have an ability Raise Shield in that case. For the Raise Shield, we are going to use a support such as Martial Tempo, Unbreakable, Steadfast, and Wind Wave. That way, just using the shield, it will be much more comfortable. So while you're running through maps, you can just click one button and raise the shield. So for example, if you're casting, you raise the shield and immediately blink with the button. So when you're raising shield, you're changing the set of your weapons to the second one, and after that you can immediately blink. If after that you're just going to cast the Bone Cage or like a Bonestorm, you're going back to the first set and you can continue casting without a lot of issues. In the second set, together with Blink, we're also going to have Convalescence, because every time when we are clicking Convalescence, your set will be changed to second anyway, and it will start recharging your energy shield. That combination is saving so much spirit for us, because when we are raising shield, we have like Blink and Convalescence activated, and we can both Blink and use Convalescence to just regenerate our energy shield. For Convalescence, we are using Second Wind support and Ingenuity. If you're not really happy with Second Wind support, you can drop it and just run with Ingenuity, but I currently prefer to have 2 users instead of 1. And for the Blink, we're not using any supports, it's just here to make sure we're running faster through the maps. Just always check that you're using the correct combo, that you're raising shield before clicking the button for Blink. That's pretty much all the skills that we are using, because anything else is not playing a very big role for us, but if you feel like it and you can utilize Mana Tempest, you can pretty much use it in some particular situations. So here's Mana Tempest together with Premeditation and Lightning Mastery. But almost always Mana Tempest is not really important, and most of the time I'm not even clicking it. So this is the set of our skills, and now let's talk about our mana regeneration. So as you can see right now I have a 0 mana, and there is a decent reason for it. I'm using Night Scale Path Scale gloves. Those gloves are giving 150% increased mana regeneration rate if you dealt a critical hit recently, but cannot regenerate mana if you haven't dealt a critical hit recently. I think those gloves are very cool, because they're going to provide a huge critical hit chance bonus, together with a huge mana regeneration bonus. But they're going to make our mana situation a little more complicated. So when you're in the map, you're going to constantly lose mana, because we have a Lich passive which is drinking our mana every second. That way, if you're not making any critical hits to enemies, you're going to lose mana consistently. In that case, you will need to just kick your flask, and when you're clicking the flask, your mana going back up. After that, you will need to cast, crit the enemy, and your regeneration will start back. If you're not able to find an enemy, you can just run around with 0 mana and click the flask at the moment when you will see them. I still think that those gloves are pretty much recommended, because that combination provides both critical hit chance and mana regeneration when they're actually hitting. But if you feel like it's too complicated, you can just drop gloves completely, lose a little damage, and just run normal energy shield gloves, probably with some life on top to get better regeneration. But if you prefer higher damage, in my opinion it's absolutely recommended to use that combo. Talking about the rest of the items, the set is pretty easy. For your wand, you're looking for plus level of all physical skills, together with critical hit chance, cast speed, and perfectly spell damage. If you can get additional damage as extra, it would be nice, but it's not really too important. For the focus, you're focusing on getting plus 2 level of all spell skills again, together with cast speed. Spell damage or spell physical damage will be a nice bonus, but if you don't have it, it's not really too bad. As a helmet, we're going to use Aziri Disdain because it's going to provide a pretty decent amount of survivability, together with rarity and additional energy shield based on our life. So I think that helmet is pretty cheap and should be a very nice bonus, and I recommend to use it. And for the rings, we're running a very unusual setup. Both our rings are Seed of the Cataclysm. They're giving us critical hit chance for spells together with critical spell damage bonus, also chaos resistance, but increase mana cost of skills. That's one of the reasons why we'll need to use the gloves to maintain our mana. Our skills cost tremendous amount of it. So Bone Cage, for example, costs 300 mana right here, and Bonestorm costs 600 mana. However, when you're properly hitting and critting the enemy, your regeneration should be enough. If you feel like that situation with mana is a little too much for you, you can drop one of the rings and lose the damage again, but just take a normal ring with a lot of mana regeneration and probably life to improve your mana regeneration even further. But I'm currently using both Seed of Cataclysm rings because they're providing a lot of DPS for us, and each ring gives from 21 to 27% based on the setup. For the belt, I just recommend the belt that has a lot of resistances, but if you can roll some life on it, it could help to have a little better mana regeneration. For the boots, I recommend to focus on resistances again, because we can't roll resistances on rings, and we just need to focus on boots for it. Also, movement speed is definitely recommended too. And for the body armor, I think getting faster start of energy shield recharge would be pretty nice, and the rest are just resistances and energy shield in general. And the last item is amulet. For amulet, you're just aiming to get level of all spell skills, increase cast speed, and maybe a little spell damage on top. Just as annoyed, I recommend to get cooked. It gives increased critical damage bonus but reduced global defenses. I think it's stacking very well with our setup, and it should work pretty good. So it's also not too expensive and one of the best annoys for the build currently. As the charm, I'm using basic grants immunity to freeze charm, because when we are getting frozen, it feels not really nice. And another important part is the flask. For the flask, it's really recommended to give 90% increased mana recovered together with removes 15% of mana recovered from life when used. That way, you can pretty much click the flask and get better regeneration because your life can be changed anyway. So as you can see, my life is not really moving anywhere. So here are approximate stats of the builds. We have like capped resistances, around 5000 energy shield, we can go up to 6 with better setup, and around 1000 mana. I think getting more life than mana is pretty important because your mana regeneration is going to get based on the life. It's also important to make sure that your energy shield recharge is high. I currently have around 1000 recharge per second and 2000 energy shield recharge delay. I think delay is playing significantly less role right here, because you're going to click Convalescence and it will start recharging your energy shield automatically. So just have a higher speed of recharge is playing bigger role in my opinion. So now let's talk about our passive skill tree. At the start you can pass through both spell damage or energy shield. Both options are pretty viable, and if you feel like you need more survivability, it will be a great idea to go for shield, and if you feel like you need more damage, you can just take spell damage instead. Here we are taking cast speed because cast speed is a pretty nice bonus. To the left, Jack Charge is going to help us both for critical hit chance and physical damage. On the right, I'm taking Dampening Shield because it can give us both Element Stun Threshold together with Maximum Energy Shield. And we're taking crits, going up. After that we're going up and taking crit bonuses here with Sudden Escalation. Going to the left and taking Cut to the Bone 2. I recommend to go through that part and get Break Armor on critical hits with spells equal to 5% of physical damage dealt. it will be a little more effective than just bleeding because we're not stuck in bleeding significantly. We're also taking all that part here with heavy buffer, because heavy buffer is going to provide 5% of damage taken bypasses energy shield, and it will mean in the Lich setup that 5% of damage will be completely ignored. We're also taking Hollow to make sure that we have element and stun threshold. After that we can go to the right and a little on the monk side. We're taking all energy bonuses here together with critical hit chance. Make sure that you're taking just enough critical hit chance to reach as close to 100 as possible, except going overboard. So you could stop around 99% approximately or reach exactly 100. So from the monk we're taking crushing wave because we're dealing critical hits constantly. I still recommend to take moment of truth. Even if you have increased critical damage bonus if you dealt a non-critical hit recently, if you have 100% of critical hit chance, it's not going to happen. However, that node is still worth it because it provides 20% increased critical hit chance, and I recommend to take that. Flow state is pretty good because of mana, and skill speed is going to rise our cast speed too, so it will add quality of life. Conservative casting, in my opinion, is pretty important because our mana is already in a pretty bad position, so getting conservative casting is going to improve the situation at least a little. After that we are taking more critical nodes here, going to the right and taking Stylebender for additional physical damage, and hit breaks increase armor. So after that we're just going up, taking Tempered Mind for critical damage bonus and physical damage, going to the right and taking Careful Assassin for critical hit chance and less critical damage bonus. Careful Assassin right here is a pretty important node because it's going to help you significantly to get your critical hit chance to 100. And after that we're just going to the left, taking Patient Barrier, Ingenuity, Control and Magic, and Aetherflow. Aetherflow is also pretty important. It's going to give us mana regeneration while we are moving, so make sure that you're always moving even when casting skills, because that way it will be much easier to regenerate your mana. I think 50% is definitely worth it. However, if you stand in one place too often, you can get rid of that passive and invest into other mana such as Open Mind, for example, even if it's going to provide less of a bonus. So that's practically the whole tree. You need to just focus on crit first and physical damage second. Mana and such thing as skill speed or cast speed right here for mental alacrity should help enough. Stacking energy shield is pretty important as well. I recommend to have at least 5k energy shield in general, and if you can push it even further, it will probably feel even better as well. So talking about our Ascendancy, we are taking Soulless Form because that way we are going to regenerate mana equal to 6% of maximum life per second, and it's going to give us more mana regeneration compared to just regeneration based on mana. We're also taking Eternal Life, so our life cannot be changed while we have Energy Shield. It's going to help significantly with tankiness, and Eternal Life is going to help us utilizing our helmets such as at Zero Disdain, Soulless Form by itself, it's additional 10%, and the bonus from Heavy Buffer, it's 5% more. That way 25% of damage will be completely ignored and it will make us significantly tankier. So I'm also taking Necromantic Conduit because it's providing up to 15% of additional damage, and losing mana per second is usually not such a big issue. However, if you feel like you still want to keep using Night Scale Gloves, and you don't want to lose mana, instead of Necromantic Conduit you can just run Rapture the Soul. Just make sure that you're cursing consistently. We are not taking Eldritch Empowerment because it's providing only non-channeling spells cost an additional energy shield and additional damage for them. But unfortunately Bonestorm is currently channeling skill, so we're not going to receive damage for it. And Bone Cage is not channeling, but we're not really requiring that much damage for Bone Cage because we already one-shotting most of the basic monsters in maps anyway. And the last Ascendancy part is just taking Crystalline Phylactery right here and placing a Jewel in there. So that's probably the best kind of jewels that you can get here. It has critical damage bonus, critical spell damage bonus, and spell damage by itself. If you can get faster start of energy shield recharge, it's probably going to feel even better. But such jewel is going to provide a pretty decent amount of DPS from Crystal and Phylactery, so make sure that you have it on there. As an additional jewel, you can also use a unique one for levels of Bonestorm or for levels of Bone Cage. Both of them should work absolutely fine. And that's pretty much the tree setup. It's very simple. Just make sure that your crit is capped and you have enough mana regeneration to regenerate at least when you're fighting and when you're hitting enemies constantly. So with such setup, you will be able to reach around 100% of critical hit chance, together with around 500% of critical damage multiplier, making your clear pretty comfortable and your single target damage pretty decent as well. Make sure to change gloves if you dislike how the mana working here, but that will lead to the situation when you will need to click flask more often, and your crit will go down a little. Otherwise, the build should work just perfectly for almost all type of content and be pretty satisfying to play. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you will have fun with it. ronarray out.